I am excited today to share about one of our aligned sponsors, Dr. Tung's innovative natural oral care designed with cleaner ingredients and real results. From smart floss to tongue cleaners and wellness-focused essentials, Dr. Tung's helps support healthier smiles for the whole family. Visit drtungs.com and enjoy 15% off your first purchase. Hey, Pod Pal, welcome to today's episode, Fruit Talk. That's right, we're talking fruit. Villain or victim? I get asked about the Ayurvedic rules around eating fruit more often than I get asked about anything. And more importantly, when people ask me this question all over the world in all sorts of different environments where I'm teaching, there's a charge around the question. People are worked up about fruit and fruit rules. So I feel it's very important. You guys have been asking me about this recently. So we're going to talk about fruit, right? Because maybe you've heard things through Ayurveda that you don't like to hear about fruit rules, such as never eat fruit for dessert, never mix fruit with dairy, don't put fruit in smoothies, bananas are bad, melons should be taken alone or left alone. Right. And so there's more to the story than a bunch of rules. Ayurveda is, as you probably know by now, not about that. We're going to talk about why timing matters, why the state of your digestion matters. So who actually benefits from following fruit rules? When can you relax the fruit rules? And how is and when is the best time to enjoy your fruits, which I know you love. I can tell you love your fruit. How do we enjoy our fruit without creating any digestive discomfort? So I am going to download. I've got a lot to say in today's Fruit Talk episode, so don't miss this. Welcome to Everyday Ayurveda with Kate, a podcast that translates ancient wisdom for modern lives. I'm your host, Kate O'Donnell. I've been living and teaching Ayurveda, India's traditional medicine, for over 25 years, and I've authored 4 best-selling books on bringing Ayurveda practices into our lives. If you're tired of battling digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, menopause symptoms, or are seeking a deeper spiritual connection and purpose, you're in the right place. This podcast is for you, offering practical, accessible advice to help you heal through diet, optimize your daily routines, and enhance your overall well-being. Follow this space for insights on a diet that heals, strategies for better digestion, sleep, hormone health, and direction for finding a deep sense of meaning and purpose. Join me, my pod people, for this empowering journey into self-care and self-discovery. Together, we'll explore how to bring balance and vitality into your everyday life. Let's do this. So when we say that Ayurveda doesn't really make rules, it does. It makes suggestions. And first and foremost, the Ayurvedic knowledge around food is of its qualities, right? So is it astringent? Is it drying? Is it full of water? Is it moist? Is it heavy? Is it light, right? What is its effect on the body? Is it easy to digest, hard to digest? Does it digest fast or slow? Does it create any gas or acid while it's digesting? Those are the things that Ayurveda tells us about so many different foods. As you can imagine, the foods grown and eaten in India in medieval times are different potentially than the ones that a lot of us are eating today. And what's available to you for fruit, right, is different depending on where on the globe you live. However, the fruits are grouped together according to their qualities. So there's the fruits that are kind of starchy, heavy, and sweet, like mango, plantain, jackfruit, banana, coconut. There's fruits that are light and watery, like melons. There are dates, that are also kind of heavy, starchy. There's fruits that are very light, like berries that have more soluble fiber, less sugar content. So citrus fruits, they're watery. They're a little bit heavy, actually. If you've bought one of those really expensive Sumo citrus, I'm always shocked by how expensive they are, how heavy they are. Yeah, I put them on the scale and I'm like, oh my God, that thing weighs a pound and a half. It's going to cost me $6 for that orange, right? So it's heavy, it's moist, it's also acidic, right? So your lemons, your limes, your grapefruits, your oranges, they're acidic. So that's totally different than, say, a banana, right? So if we're going to mix together bananas and oranges, they're going to kind of potentially fight against each other's qualities in your belly, right? And from that sort of eating where things are competing or not harmonizing nicely in your belly, that's where you start to see the digestive byproducts, the hyperacidity, the gas, the bloat. And I think what most people experience when they eat fruit in ways that is not working well for their digestion is the bloat, right? And no one loves to be bloated, right? And so we may not realize that some of our fruit mixing is causing a bloat, right? And then once you get the bloat, once you've got air kind of being manufactured in your gut, then it starts to mess up the trajectory or the pace or the ability for your digestive tract to just kind of move things along the line as it would like to do smoothly and harmoniously. So there's reasons, that these observances around fruit might be helpful for some and not helpful for others. Before we really break down the rules or the observances, I want you to know that the mixing of fruits, especially with dairy, creates a lot of sourness in the gut. And it's particularly pointed to in Ayurveda text. That kind of sourness in the gut contributes to skin issues. So if you're somebody who's got an itchy thing, an eczema thing, or your skin is not clear the way you like it to be, there's rashes, bumps, zits, cystic stuff. That's a good reason to think about what's going on with the digestion, right? Because, I've got a story about this one. There was one winter in India where I was really getting into the papaya boat. I called it a papaya boat, right? So the papayas, are just, I don't eat them anywhere in the world except in the tropics where they grow, because otherwise they really don't taste like a papaya. So when I'm there, I tend to papaya out. So I'll buy this papaya, cut it in half, scoop out the seeds, and then it makes like this boat. And I was filling the boat with like yogurt. And then I don't remember what else I was putting on there, maybe like chopped up almonds or something. There was this boat happening every day though. I actually started to get kind of boils, like big cystic pustules kind of under my hairline and on the back of my neck. Totally unrelated, I just was going for an Ayurvedic massage, and the doctor at the clinic kind of saw me come in, and he looks at me and he goes, "You're eating the bad food." And I remember I said, "No, no, all I'm eating is like yogurt and papaya, the fruits, like the nourishing dairy." And he just shook his head. Right? So I learned a lesson through my boils that winter about being in a hot climate and mixing together foods that don't digest at the same rate. So let me explain to you what was going on with my papaya boats, right? And how that might vitiate the skin as well as the digestion. So point number one, friend, is as we talk about like all the cautionary tales around fruit, the positives, as well as the not so great points around fruits, keep in mind that this is not about you following this perfectly. Nothing bad happens to you. The Ayurvedic police are not going to bang on your door when you start eating a papaya boat tomorrow morning, or you start having your fruit, granola, and yogurt bowl right in the morning. However, if you're someone who has been kind of struggling with wondering what the heck's going on with, certain skin disorders that are bothering you or digestive stuff, like there's the perma bloat, for example. And I'm not saying that fruit is the only reason that these things happen, but I'm saying that fruits may be contributing to skin or digestive problems that are plaguing you, and it could be a really simple fix for you, right? It's just that maybe not the wellness system that you're using to look at your body is making this correlation, right, between what is produced in your digestive tract and how that's circulating through the body and might be manifesting in your skin. So If you're somebody who's got the skin stuff or the digestive stuff, this information may be important for you. And if you feel great, you're happy with what's going on the skin, and your gut feels good, then whatever you're doing is probably working. So pat on the back, have a nice day, enjoy your fruits. Right. And then there are those who are always want to optimize, right? And make everything work the best it can, avoid future suffering, that kind of thing. So that's where I fall. Like, I had to eat a lot of papaya boats in a very hot climate in order to end up with the boils. I am not having boils at the moment. I do get the bloat. I know what causes the bloat, and I'm going to share all the bloat tricks with you in this episode. So I am careful with fruit because I don't like to be gassy. I don't like to be bloated, and I don't like to burp all day. So there's things that I avoid now because I've learned through Ayurveda as well as through my own experience, right? So I'm going to share that. And if you're somebody who finds yourself attaching to rules around food and being restrictive around food, then take a pause, right? Zoom out, step back on the information in this episode and realize that information like this is useful when there is something that's like not working right in your digestion and you're trying to figure out, what might be contributing to that. It's not about, becoming a better person by restricting your fruit, right? Or feeling good about yourself because you're following the rules, right? What happens with rules around food is that we outsource our awareness of what's going on in our bodies and what's going on in our digestion. And we try to just go back to that list, follow it, and then be kind of in this cerebral or intellectual relationship between food and body where you're kind of checked out and you're not actually paying attention to what you're eating and what kind of reactions that might be causing in your body. So that's the issue around the rules, right? And why the information that I would present to you about fruit is not about following these rules. It's about understanding the effects that fruit has on the body, right? And specifically the digestion. If you want to do a deep dive into the skin connection that I'm talking about and digestion and how sort of not great digestive byproducts can show up in the skin, you're going to find a lot of that information in Everyday Ayurveda for Women's Health, where I talk about the Rakta Dhatu, which is that sort of red part of the blood that's circulating under the skin that can very easily become vitiated by a sour quality. So a lot of what we're talking about today, the cautionary tale about fruit, has to do with the sour quality in the digestion, in the ahara rasa, that juice of the food that's created in the stomach and small intestine. Let me tell you a digestive story. So the chef is about to prepare the rice. They measure out the water. They measure out the rice, right? They start to boil the water, add half of the rice, right? It's cooking. 20 minutes later, chef decides to add the rest of the rice. So the first of the rice was going along cooking nicely. And then we added some uncooked rice 20 minutes later. And so now we're going to end up with half kind of mushy, putrefied, overcooked rice and half undercooked rice, right? And that is what happens when we are eating things that are sort of digesting at different times in the gut, right? Is that you've got this little trap door in your stomach that's not going to open and release the food until everything in the belly is all, in a digested state. So the thing about fruit is that it is light, generally fast to digest. So that is the reason that fruit causes fermentation in the stomach, is because your fruit might digest in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And your other food, like your granola and your yogurt that you're mixing it with, those are going to take, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So the fruit starts to ferment in the stomach, starts to ferment in the gut while it's waiting for the rest of the food. And that fermentation is what causes the sour, what we call in Ayurveda, a sour quality. Sour is heating. It is hot. So then you've got a digestive, nutritive precursor moving into circulation in your body that has heating qualities. That's why we start to see rashes, boils, itching, redness, skin stuff. And we also can start to see inflammation in the long run. And it is why mixing the fruits along with the foods where they're digesting at very different rates, if it's happening often, that means that you're getting this sour byproduct of digestion often. So you probably heard something like, eat fruit by itself, and that's where the timing really matters because fruit is kind of watery, it's quick to digest. It's something that what we ask the fruit to be digested along with is really important. That's what really makes the difference about how that fruit is going to affect your body because the fruit itself is considered a beautiful thing. And I think that's part of why so many people have a charge around fruit is because either A, you've been taught growing up that you should eat fruit, that it's so good for you, right? And I know like it's one of the ways to get like fresh, high prana food into especially a child's body where they may not want to eat like broccoli and bitter tasting things. They'll eat the sweet tasting thing. And I think a lot of us as adults are also like that. We're reaching for fruit because it's sweet tasting. And it's pleasant to eat, right? It's like, it feels like it's hydrating. It's got all these gorgeous floral flavors, right? And it's a sweet thing. So a lot of people, I think, are having the charge around the fruit because it's a sweet thing that they love to eat, that they also believe is good for them. And so everyone's like, don't take away my fruit. Don't tell me that fruit is bad, right? So if the fruit's digesting well, it's freaking awesome, right? So there's some things that we can do to assist in the digestion of the fruit. One of them is to eat the fruits by themselves on an empty stomach. Whether that's in the morning or in the afternoon, like kind of before dinner, let's say it takes at least 2 hours for whatever's in that stomach to pass through. So you want to kind of make sure you've had several hours before you eat fruit. If you want the fruit to be good for you, you should also eat the fruit at a time when you're actually hungry, when you have a digestive fire, right? Whereas I'm gonna guess that some of us are snacking on fruit because it tastes good. And then there's a little voice in your head that's like, you're not hungry, you don't need anything right now, but you're orally fixated or you're stressed out or whatever it is. So eat fruit because it's healthy. And then we don't have to feel, bad about snacking because it's fruit. Meanwhile, you just threw that uncooked rice in there along with a meal that would have been nicely digested, right, and nourishing to the body. But because you just wanted something sweet on your tongue, you threw that in there. I'd rather have you eat like a square of chocolate, to be honest, because it's going to digest better than a fruit in there with all this other complicated stuff like a meal, right? So fruit for dessert, fruit when we're not hungry, fruit when there's stuff in your belly already, it's gonna cause that sour thing, right? And it's for some people also gonna cause the bloat because fermentation, as you know, creates gases, right? And so then you've got the gases in your gut. So you're, either you're burping, it's trying to come out, and that's gonna happen, especially for those who maybe have more acid or are eating high acid fruits. You're burping it, or it's going all the way down the tube, and then you've got kind of that lower belly distension. So the analogy here, is fruit is like a vegetable that cooks in 5 minutes, and everything else is like a roast. Yeah, it takes 3 hours, right? And you're putting them in at the same time. You wouldn't do that with your cooking, right? You wouldn't like put lettuce on top of a steak and put it in the oven for 3 hours. So I think there's that, right? We want to think about the timing of it. And so fruit, the heavier and slower to digest the food in your belly is that's being mixed with the fruit, the longer it's going to sit there and ferment. So the foods that do take a little longer to break down are going to include meats, cheeses, like oily things, nut butters, yogurt, dairy, right? I would say the meats and the dairies and potentially bread and wheat, those are the kind of heaviest and slowest to digest things. So when we are mixing fruit in with those things, it's the fermentation is going to be greater. And the reason that we in Ayurveda make that special point about mixing fruit and yogurt is because yogurt is already fermented. Yogurt is already sour. So when we mix it with the fruit and allow it to ferment in the gut, you just get like a kind of triple fermentation going on, which, as we've talked about, is going to create heat, specifically the kind that circulates through the body via the blood. So it's a reason to think about what's going on in the morning, because a lot of Americans, anyway, are really reliant on fruit and yogurt and granola. So granola would be the oily, heavy thing in there, right? Mixed along with the other two sour things. So I think the reason a lot of people eat that for breakfast is because it does sit in your belly for a long time. And if you're just eating granola and yogurt without fruit, you feel like you're just eating all this really like heavy, oily stuff. Like, come on, we got to lighten it up. We got to balance it, right? So let's add fruit, right? Berries. People love to add their berries, which berries, they have a really high soluble fiber content. They, in that way, kind of will digest a little more harmoniously with the other things in your stomach rather than if you put like something really quick to digest like melons in there. So, maybe that works better for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people just want to feel full for a long time and not have to worry about it until they get to the next meal. And that is what the combination of yogurt and granola will do. I personally don't put the fruit in. If I'm going to do it, the granola thing with the yogurt, like I just don't put fruit in it. Yeah. I put seeds on it, like I'm trying to add like mineral density by putting sunflower seeds on it or hemp seeds or something like that instead of the fruit, right? So I do eat fruit first thing in the morning. That's my jam. I'm not a cuppa type. I do not have excess moisture in my gut to start out the day. So one of the cautionary tales you might be hearing about fruit in the morning is that it aggravates kapha dosha, because kapha dosha is heavy and it's watery, and fruit is sweet, right? And it's also kind of watery. So when a kapha type starts the day with something sweet, it can sit a little bit heavier in the gut. And a kapha type in the morning is going to be better actually with a savory breakfast. They're going to be better with something a little spicy, like a spicy kind of soup, or like a brown rice and broccoli with ginger, like that kind of a thing, which is culturally in the States anyway, not something a lot of people eat for breakfast, So thinking about, the state of your digestion at the time that you would eat the fruit. So in the morning, if you're not hungry or you feel mucousy or heavy, then don't have fruit at that time. You might need to wait until such time as you have a stronger agni, a stronger digestive fire before you eat that fruit. Because it is, yes, it digests fast, but it's also sweet. So we don't really want to spike your blood sugar either. So when I do eat the fruit in the morning, I usually have it simply for enjoyment. I eat fruit because it is a lovely thing, right? And it's a short season in New England to enjoy the summer fruits, right? So I tend to eat more fruits in the summer. My appetite in the morning tends to be a little bit lighter in the summer because it's not so cold. So my body's not needing all this food to kind of keep me warm. So I can get away with it. I'll have some cherries or I'll have some peaches. I don't mix fruits together. Generally, I find that makes me burp and gives me a bloat. And that is because fruits have different qualities. As I said, some of them are acidic. Some of them are like a little bit heavier and starchy, right? And I don't mix them all together. I enjoy the one fruit that's in season at that time. So right now I'm enjoying cherries, and I'll move into peaches, and then I'll move into melons later in the summer. And then in the fall, we move into our apples, and our pears. And that's pretty much all of the fruit that's going on. And once it's cold out, I have to eat fruit cooked only. Oh, it's too cold for me. I'll just feel cold all the time. And it will make my belly hurt to eat the cold food. We spend so much time thinking about wellness, what we eat, how we sleep, how we manage stress, but oral health is an important part of this bigger picture. That's why I'm excited to share today's sponsor, Dr. Tongues. Dr. Tung's has been creating innovative natural oral care products for over 25 years, combining modern dental science with holistic wellness principles to support a healthier mouth and overall well-being. Their products are thoughtfully designed to work with your body, not against it. I love their incredibly popular Smart Floss, which is clinically shown to remove up to 55% more plaque than traditional flosses. I also love that Dr. Tung's focuses on sustainability, eco-conscious packaging, and avoiding unnecessary chemicals like PFAs, PTFE, dyes, and harsh additives whenever possible. If you're looking to upgrade your family's oral care routine with products that feel healthier and truly effective, visit drtongues.com. New customers get 15% off their purchase. If your skin has been feeling dry, dull, or like it constantly needs more product but never feels quite nourished, there is an Ayurvedic approach worth trying. Something I've been loving lately is Beauty Balm from Banyan Botanicals. Glow starts with how you nourish your skin, and this balm is all about deep, lasting moisture and care. It's made with nourishing ghee, shatavari, and a subtle rose geranium scent, creating this rich, soothing blend that helps soften skin, support hydration, and promote that healthy, natural glow. What I love most is how versatile it is. One balm, every dry spot, face, hands, lips, cuticles, elbows, knees. Beauty Balm does it all. A little goes a long way, and it leaves your skin feeling soft, supple, and genuinely cared for. Like everything from Banyan Botanicals, it's made with high quality ingredients and rooted in the wisdom of Ayurveda. So if you're looking for one simple product to support glowing, hydrated skin wherever you need it, try Banyan Botanicals Beauty Balm. You can find it at banyanbotanicals.com/Kate, and I'll link it in the show notes. One of the questions I got from one of you was like, how important is fruit? And I was like, that is really the crux here because everybody's kind of freaking out about needing their fruit in a way that feels a little off to me. I don't believe that we need fruit every day in order to be healthy people, right? I believe we need a balanced diet that contains all six tastes, that contains a nice balancing of the qualities. Some things are heavy, some things are light, some things are really nourishing. A few of the things there are cleansing. So we've got some bitter, we've got some astringent, and then we've got some sweet, right? A little spicy, a little sour for the flavors. That's what we want over the course of the day. And so do we need to eat fruit every day? No, we really don't. I don't think it is a necessary thing. As I said, I eat fruit because I enjoy it. It is one of the bounties and beauties of this earth to enjoy the colors and flavors that are present in fruit. It's very unique. So I don't want to miss out on that, right? But it's not going on off season, that's for sure. Ayurveda is very clear about eating the foods that the planet is giving you in your place at that time. And that will have the ultimate digestibility and the ultimate nutrition for you. So when they're in season, I'm eating the things. And then when they're not, I'm not, right? So there's some cooked apples and compotes and things happening in the wintertime. And that's it. I might also eat some dates in the wintertime, but really that's it, right? So I move through the berries and then the stone fruits and then the melons. And that's how it works, right? Some of you are in environments where you have tropical fruits all the time. A lot of the tropical fruits tend to be a little heavier, a little maybe starchier like mangoes and bananas and plantains. Papayas are an interesting one, just FYI, they are heating. That's why mixing them with the sourness of the yogurt gave me the boils because papayas are hot. And you'll find that with the mango too. You know, those of you who've overeaten mangoes in season, you may have gotten the rash, right? The skin rash. So there's a little acid there, you know, in the mango. Any fruit at all, when it's taken before it's fully ripe, is going to be sour and it becomes sweeter as it ripens. So Ayurveda is very specific around eating fruits when they're ripe, right? Unless you're doing a specific formulation, such as like a green mango chutney that has ginger and sugar and all these other things in it to balance the sour quality. And then you use it as a condiment that's meant to be sour rather than filling your gut with sourness, you know, by eating like piles of citrus fruits, for example. So the banana. Let us talk about the banana. So, you know, I have a friend who tells this story that his yoga teacher was watching all the yoga students like eating bananas all the time. Right. And a lot of people are attached to their banana because bananas are very filling and bananas digest slow, right? And then everybody's, freaking out about the potassium and whatever. So you need your banana. I understand if you have kids that you want them to eat bananas. I get it, right? You want children to eat things that do not come out of bags and boxes, and that's where the fruit comes in. So go for it. And kids, generally, unless they're having digestive problems, kids generally, because of, the activity and the hormonal activity, like they're generally having a good ugni and can eat all the things, right? And even mix things together and, especially if they're active. So don't worry so much about what your kids are doing with the fruit unless they're having a skin or a digestive thing, in which case it might be helpful to think about some of these things. Right. But the banana, people are attached to the banana because, again, it fills you up. And it's so freaking easy to stick a banana in your bag, right? So if you're going to eat a banana, the story my friend's yoga teacher said was he told all the students, like, stop eating all these bananas, kids. He said, if I took a banana and I took it to the cremation grounds and I put the banana in the fire, it won't burn. It'll still be there, right? Which may not be true, but the analogy was to say that's how slow and hard bananas are to digest. So when I think about bananas, one of the things that I notice personally with bananas is that I burp for hours after I eat one, which tells me it's still in my stomach. And that's very true. So that's even when I have a banana by itself. So I've learned through experimentation that if I'm going to have a banana, I need to have it by itself, or else I will burp, burp, burp for 6 hours. And if I have it by itself, I need to wait more than an hour, hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours before mixing anything, because that banana is going to still be in my belly. And whatever I put in there, we're going to have banana burps for hours after that. Now, I was really attached, friends. When I started studying Ayurveda, I was somebody who was putting frozen bananas in smoothies every day, along with yogurt and fruits and green powders and all the things, right? So, another thing I think a lot of people have fallen into is depending on the blender to give them nutrition, right? So everything is getting thrown into a blender in the morning because we just can't take the time to nourish the body and think about nourishment for the day. So we're just trying to load our macros into a blender so we can get it in our face without even having to sit down and chew. So it's Ayurvedically abominable to mix all those things together like that and then stick them in your face while you're doing something else. Right? So I've gotten down to the 3 ingredient smoothie rule, which I talk about in the Everyday Ayurveda cookbook. I even give you smoothie recipes in that book, which are Ayurvedically correct. So I took the bananas out of the smoothies. The burps went away, right? So much better. I took the dairy out of the smoothies. So now it's going to be chia seed and a fruit and maybe a bit of, if I want it creamy, a bit of coconut milk, or I'll put in like a splash of pomegranate juice or something like that. And that's it. I'm not throwing all this stuff in smoothies anymore. I'm committed to getting macros, getting nutrition from the food that I sit down and eat at meals. If you're going to take anything home from today's episode, think about that, right? What are the obstacles in your days to you sitting down and having nourishing meals? And it's going to take some time to unpack those obstacles because a lot of them probably aren't in your control. However, have you given a back seat to the importance of sitting down and eating warm food? Right? Have you just said, well, let's take that off the table because all these other things need to happen? Not a great move, just across the board, not a great move. So, step one is to prioritize getting nutrition from the meals that you sit down and eat. Just start making it a priority, even if it's just in your mind and heart, and allow the changes to follow from there. Right? Otherwise, here you are with your banana for your potassium and your Greek yogurt for the protein, your green powder, your protein powder. It's all going into this melange. So If it feels great to you and you don't have any digestive disorders or skin disorders, then you can bookmark this information for a later time where something starts bothering you. And then you can turn your attention towards, is this fruit smoothie thing working for me or not? In the meantime, as I said, if you're feeling great, then something you're doing is working, right? So the banana is heavy, heavy, heavy. If you're gonna eat it, it'll digest better and you'll actually get that potassium you're looking for. But if you just kind of have it by itself, not with a quart of water at the same time, because that banana is cool, heavy, and moist. It really opposes the qualities of digestive fire. So your digestion has to work to break that banana down and make it into something nutritious for your body. If we throw a bunch of water down in there too, with that cool, heavy, moist thing called the banana, it can definitely create a waterlogging of the digestion, which Ayurveda texts say would make a person stout. All right, which many of you probably aren't looking for stout. It's probably not in the top of your body qualities that you're trying to manifest. Right? So the stoutness, the bloating, the gas, the burping, right? Look for these things, when you're mixing, and potentially the banana, is it working for you? The other fruit that gets special mention is the melon. So melons are incredibly sweet, light, and fast to digest. They are the fastest to digest. So if I'm going to eat a melon, I am going to get bloated no matter what. But I definitely, when melons are in season, I just eat the melon, right? And it's super light, so I'm still hungry, So I'll eat the melon, then I'll wait half an hour and then eat something else. Watermelon, the honeydew, the cantaloupe, all of those things are not something you want to eat for dessert. It makes me crazy when they garnish your brunch plate. So there you are in the morning with all this heavy food and then melon, which the reason they put it there is because of the color, right? It's pretty, it looks nice. And you would feel that is light and refreshing when you chew it after having, eggs or home fries and potatoes and that sort of thing. So just don't eat it, okay? If they're giving you slices of melon alongside heavy food, just leave it there, right? And when the watermelon's going around at the barbecue, you've already had hot dogs and bread and chips and sour cream dips and all these things, just skip the watermelon, right? Just have it at another time where there isn't all that other stuff also happening. Just be one with the watermelon. Really show up for that melon when it's in season and enjoy it and digest it well. Allow its positive qualities to actually be transmuted. It only takes about a half an hour, right? So the melons, I can tell the bloat. It is almost instantaneous, the bloat. And something like watermelon, it does have a bit of a laxative quality. So then it's nice, but it's going to move through you a lot faster and create that cleansing quality if you just let it do its thing and not compound it with all this other food at the same time. So the melons are great like before dinner where you haven't eaten for a while and it's going to take you an hour to make the food. So you need something. So that's a great time to have your fruit, your melon, maybe even a banana, as long as you've got like at least an hour before you're going to eat. I like that. I like the before dinner tide me over fruit thing. And then I like it in the morning as well. So when it's cooked, you're going to notice that a lot of my books include recipes that have fruit cooked into them. I get a lot of emails about that. Why is that in your book? So when you cook the fruit together with the food, it's pre-digesting all together. They're working out their differences in the pot there. And so I find that I don't get as much of the bloating, burping, etc. when the fruit is cooked in with food. It's still not something I'm doing often or every day. It's more of kind of a treat. But, in the wintertime, if there's dried fruits, maybe you're chopping up dates or apricots or putting raisins in things. Again, if you're bloated, look there. If you're not bloated, then it's working for you. Right? And it's the same with the cooked fruit. If you cook fruit in with food, like an apple crisp, and it feels fine, great. When I eat apple crisp, I tend to not have it for dessert, but I tend to have it as a meal because I do think it's kind of a lot to digest, so I'll have it like a big pile of that and just enjoy it and be one with the apple crisp, right? and let it digest rather than, again, mixing everything together. All right, friends. So we have talked about the importance of eating seasonal fruit. We have talked about the importance of not combining fruit with foods that take a long time to digest. And in that way, you can actually get all the nutrition that you're craving from your fruit, right? And have it actually be a good thing that's digesting in your body. However, if you're someone who has a heavy, damp stomach in the morning, that's not a great time to eat fruit. You probably want to go for something warming, like a little pungent, something gingery, something that's served warm, something that's savory, and that'll work better for you at that time. Maybe try your fruit, several hours after lunch, or like an hour or so before dinner to tide you over while you wait for that meal. But you might just be someone who needs to get the digestion a little bit stronger before putting the really sweet food in there, like fruit. We talked about how yogurt is already sour. And so when you mix it with the quickly fermenting fruit in the gut, it creates a sourness in the digestion that moves into circulation through the body and increases heat, which may show up in skin. It may show up in inflammation, inflammatory stories, right? Something to think about. And we've talked about the banana and how bananas are. They are starchy, heavy, slow to digest. And so have them, by themselves. Don't drink a ton of water along with it and let it digest for at least an hour. If you're burping and tasting that mango or that banana or whatever it is, that's telling you something, right? So watch the burps, watch the burp tastes, right, to give you information. And keep in mind that mixing fruit with the really heavy stuff like your bread, your meats, and your dairy, especially when the fruit is raw, when it's uncooked. That's when we might see more digestive byproducts from it. We talk about how melons are the fastest and lightest and most sweet. So have them by themselves, really let your body get the goods out of that. And then follow it. Don't starve after, right? Because you're still going to be hungry. Then you follow it with a meal an hour or so, after you had the melon. And that can take a little bit of planning, right? Remember to eat the fruit when you're actually hungry. Snacking on fruit when there's food in your stomach from a previous meal or a previous snack is going to be fermentation city, which is going to give you the bloat, right? Give that fruit a little space. And finally, pay attention to your body, how your body feels, right? Rather than just trying to follow the rules. And to make your fruit happy, remember to prioritize ripeness rather than the really sour and unripe fruit. Remember that you can cook your fruit. You can cook your fruit along with your food, and that will make it easier. Remember that smoothies are a little bit kind of cold and damp and hard to digest as it is. So when we're mixing dairies and powders and all these kind of micronutrients in with the fruits in the blender, better to just keep that really simple. And then it's about your body and you're paying attention to it. That's really going to give you the info, right, about how fruit is working for you. And in general, I feel that people are obsessed with fruit, and it's really unnecessary to be obsessed with fruit because you think it's like so good for you and you have to make sure you get your fruit. Make sure you get all the tastes, mixed together in a lovely way almost every day. You can't hit it every day, but you try to get like well-rounded meals, and that's really what it is. And it's when we're missing that we start getting weird about food. Right? We start getting a charge about I need this and I need that, right? Because your body's like, we need this, and this because you're not sitting down and giving me meals. So I need my fruit, God damn it. Right. So I hope this helps. If it's created more fruit questions for you, you can drop those via email. You can give a comment right here on your podcast platform. You can pop it on my Instagram, kateodonnell.ayurveda. Let's keep the fruit talk going if necessary. We're going to keep, beating that fruit horse until we all feel like we understand how fruit works in our bodies, right? And what are the happy ways to love and be one with our seasonal fruits. Thanks so much for being on the journey with me, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Ayurveda with Kate. One more thing before you go. If you've ever dreamed of studying Ayurveda at the source, join me in India next February for a 10-day culinary and nutrition immersion 2027. We'll cook, we'll study, and we'll explore Mysore together, and you'll come home with the confidence to make food medicine. Learn more and enroll at ayurvedicliving.institute. I would love to have you with us.